Director Ramirez said I could take off more time, as much as I needed. The funeral and wake, life insurance, bank transfers, all of that passed in a blur. Lingering in the house that we spent the last 20 years living together in, with her smells and presence still permeating every room, is too much. As I walk down the steps past the turnstiles, cordoned off with orange cones and caution tape, the smells of the New York subway system assault me. Piss, sweat, and pretty much every other unpleasant odor that humans can make merge into a disgusting potpourri. I recognize 2 other members of Task Force Gamma 6 just past our makeshift barricade. Samantha Jones, 5 years on the beat and pushing 50, and Kyle Jenkins, a kid still in his 20s, built like a linebacker but with a noticeable limp in his step. Jenkins is new, and his smile promptly drops when he sees me.
Commander!
He snaps off a salute.
I wasn't expecting you back so soon after, that is, I wasn't expecting you back, sir.
You can call me Mike. I shrug my shoulders. We're not big on rank here in Gamma 6.
Yes, sir, Mike. Sir Mike.
Samantha sighs and drapes her arm over Jenkins' shoulder, inadvertently showing off her 2 missing fingers on one hand.
Quit while you're ahead, kid.
She nods at me.
Good to have you back, Mike.
I return her greeting, letting the awkwardness pass, before heading past them toward the empty platform. The Foundation has been cordoning off this section of tracks for nearly 2 decades. You would think that would maybe raise some suspicions or questions. New Yorkers, though, aren't jaded by nature, constantly seeing the glass half full. Routine construction delays are just another price to pay to live in a city they claim to despise but can't ever let go of. I should know. I've been married to a native New Yorker for 25 years.
You were married.
The tiny voice whispers in the back of my head and freezes me in place. That's the hardest part to get over, thinking of Cara in the past tense, realizing she isn't waiting for me at the end of this shift. She's dead and gone, her body and bones reduced to ash and spread over Central Park like she wanted.
Mike!
Javier Hernandez stands at the platform with 2 cups of black coffee in each hand. He hands one to me, which I gladly accept and fight through the searing first gulp.
I'm not going to ask you how you feel. I'm not going to ask if you want to talk about it. I just want to know if you feel like sharing. I still have one ear that works.
Thanks, Javi. I measure my emotions before taking another sip. I'm coping. He nods.
Guess that's all you can do.
Javi and I have been working on Task Force Gamma 6 together for the longest. It's the Foundation's charity project, which still requires armed guards, but doesn't require us to be in the best shape. Each of us has something keeping us from working fully able jobs at the Foundation. In my case, it's diminished vision. I have a nasty hook of a scar, curling up from the side of my neck before turning abruptly right at my nose, then jamming straight up through my right eye and into my scalp. I think it makes me look like someone took a knife to my face and started with a question mark before deciding they wanted an exclamation point instead. Cara, though, says,
"It makes you look mysterious and sexy."
The words of my dead wife get swallowed up by the rumbling at our feet. Javi and I quickly down the rest of our coffee before tossing the empty cups in a nearby trash can. We check the clock over the platform and confirm the time. 11:57 p.m., like clockwork, every Saturday and Sunday.
Hopefully not many departures today,
Javi shouts as the car slams to a stop. The doors slide open and a man steps out. He looks around at the empty platform and stares at us in confusion. He's wearing bell-bottom jeans and a woven jacket with a giant peace sign sewn over his left breast. Like his wardrobe, his sideburns and facial hair are also decades out of style.
"Sorry, sir, track maintenance,"
Hernandez says as he steps forward.
"Do you mind coming with us and answering a few questions?" "Yes, I fucking mind. Last time I checked, this is still the good old US of A and not Nazi Germany. Man, I knew this would happen as soon as Johnson took over. Warmongering prick has his fascist watchdogs at the ready, just because a guy likes to wear his hair long."
His rant goes through my ears like white noise, and Javi and I exchange a look. We know trouble when we see it. We've been doing this job too long not to. I let Javi smile and nod, using his broader bulk to conceal my movements as I reach into my jacket. The hippie jabs his finger into Javi's chest, and he parts just enough for me to jab the taser between the man's ribs. Our traveler twitches a couple of times where he stands, then drops like a pile of bricks.
Yeah, not much to say now, huh?
Javi bends over to drape one of the man's arms over his shoulder.
Fucking draft dodger.
I take the other side, and we hoist the man between us. Our knees crack in an arthritic chorus as we shoulder his weight.
Pretty sure the train made him miss the draft, Jav. Sure, that's what they all say.
Javier adjusts himself and wipes sweat from his brow.
Fucking time travelers.
Javi and I manage to work the hippie past Sam and Jenkins. He orders them to check and make sure that there are no other passengers as we keep walking the meat puppet up the steps. By the time we are rewarded with a glimpse of street lamps, both of us are winded. Luckily, the unmarked van isn't much farther, the same as it is every Saturday and Sunday at this time. Javi bangs on the door and it slides open. We sling the hippie to the two researchers half our age. Javi wipes his mouth and bends over to catch his breath.
It's your problem now.
I hesitate, knowing I'm no historian, but I am an avid watcher of the History Channel, excluding their UFO programs. The subject made references to LBJ and the Kennedy assassination. His year of departure is probably somewhere between 1963 and 1965. We wait for the van to depart before Javi pats me on the back. He's always been more the man of action, leaving the facts and figures to me. He fingers his shirt, his hands landing on the outline of a cigarette. He takes a cigarette and offers me one, but I shake my head as I have for the last 10 years. Sparking up, the air is soon polluted with the stench of tobacco and menthol. It's a marginal improvement over the subway stench.
Jenkins is down.
Sam's voice breaks through our walkie-talkies clipped at our belts.
Repeat, Jenkins is down.
I'm the first to unclip the radio from my belt.
Sit, Rep Jones.
There's a second passenger. Identity unconfirmed. He's wearing a fedora, mask, and...
Javi and I rush down the steps, neither of us bothering with the non-lethal measures. We each unholster the pistols from our belts and stroll toward the flickering lights of the platform. I can make out two large lumps on the ground. What I hope is just an unconscious Sam and Jenkins, but I can't see if they're breathing or not.
Hold it right there, motherfucker!
Javi has always been louder than me, and though I technically outrank him, he wastes no time bellowing out the command. Of course, the traveler does the opposite and reaches into his coat. He throws an orb in the air, making the lights flicker even more. I open fire, Javi's gun soon joining in, but the sudden kaleidoscope of light makes it impossible to track the man as he moves toward us like he's moving at 1 frame a minute. Both of his hands clap on the opposite side of Javi's head. He throws a knee into Javi's groin, then grips and flips him in an overhead arch. Javi lands with a tremendous collision that I hope doesn't indicate a broken back or spine. Swearing, I adjust my aim, but the traveler is quicker than anticipated. His foot flies out, colliding with my gun, sending it scattering across the floor and under the train. Usually, we only deal with disoriented travelers. I square off in a defensive stance, ready to show this bastard how many martial arts I've studied over the years. I throw a punch and he counters, but I'm ready for that, already ducking low and spinning my leg to catch him off guard. He jumps over that just as quickly, but I grunt and carry through with an uppercut. He blocks it and shoves me back, gaining the upper hand. What the hell? I'm no spring chicken anymore, sure. The years when I was a middleweight champ are long in the past, but I'm also no novice either. Despite my diminished vision, I can still hold my own against the average civilian. The Foundation wouldn't post me here otherwise. Their generosity doesn't come before operational security. And yet every throw, every punch, the man meets me with another encounter. I alternate between kickboxing, Muay Thai, and Jiu-Jitsu, but he seamlessly adjusts his stance to match my style. Hand-to-hand combat has always been my specialty, yet this guy reads me like an open book. and matches me with some moves I don't recognize. My denial crashes with reality. My opponent latches onto my arm and bends it back. Screaming, I lunge forward and manage to connect a clumsy right hook across his jaw. He staggers back, his hat and bandana knocked away from his face. He rears up, and I come face to face with... No, it can't be! His hair is completely gray and sheared short to his scalp. His flesh is darkened, tanned by years of being outside, and wrinkled by the passage of time. But there's no mistaking that scar on his face. It's a cross between a question mark and an exclamation point, and could only be mistaken as mysterious and sexy by the most incredible woman ever to walk the earth. It's me. I'm biting myself. The other, older me, grips me by the wrist.
You'll thank me for this later.
Then with a twist, he slams us both backward toward the train. The doors slam shut, and the train takes off. I throw a couple of quick blows to his ribs, but then a sound grows. A piercing scream that rips through my soul and forces me to cover my ears, leaving my face unguarded for the blow that collides against the side of my head. As I slowly regain consciousness, I think the sound in my ears is still from the train. It takes me a minute to recognize the telltale signs of a slight concussion. Groaning, I climb quickly to my feet and ready myself in a defensive stance. The car is empty though, and the doors are already open. Taking a breath, I step outside the door and onto the platform. There are a few stragglers nearby. However, there's no sign of Javi, the others, or anyone I worked with in the past. Staggering, I brace myself against the wall, catch my breath, and process what that means. I arrived at a time before the Foundation set up a containment team on the train's routine stop. That means I'm in the 90s at the latest. Fortunately, clothing hasn't changed that much, especially if you never had much of a fashion sense like me. I could pass in any time within the last 20 or 30 years, so I limp up the steps and into the open air. 11:57 p.m., according to the clock. The readily available payphones confirm my suspicions. Cell phones aren't available to the general public yet. I make my way up the street, looking for a newspaper to confirm the date, when a familiar laugh stops me in my tracks. 3 college-aged girls are walking toward me. I recognize the 2 on the sides from photos of Cara's college days. Roommates that she's fallen out of touch with. And walking in the middle is my wife. She's about 10 years younger than when we first met. But there's no mistaking that laugh, that smile, even as she stumbles between the 2, all of them drunk. I can't do anything but stare as they part awkwardly between me and continue to their destination.
God, you see his face?
One of the girls whispers too loudly.
Creepy. Really?
Cara doesn't lower her voice. She never did.
I thought he looked kind of sexy.
The words are so familiar that they send a knife through my heart. I turn toward her, reaching out my arm, unsure of what I'm going to say. That she doesn't know me, but she will someday? That we're going to fall madly in love? That she's the most important thing that ever happened to me, and I miss her so much it hurts?
Don't do it.
Another familiar voice turns me to the nearby building steps. The older me isn't wearing his disguise from before, and locks his scarred gaze with my own.
I know it's hard, but don't. Who knows what might happen? You might screw things up.
That possibility lowers my arm. It's why we contain every traveler that comes off the train. The ones from the past are largely nothing more than an inconvenience. But the ones from the future pose a challenge. We can't let them contaminate our time stream and make things worse. I glare at the older version of me. Anger pounds through my heart and clouds my head. How dare he? He, of all people, knows how hard it is to live without Cara. And yet, he's brought me to a time where I can see her but never speak to her. I wouldn't do this to my worst enemy. Just what the hell was he thinking? Realization dawns on me, and I stare at him. A small smile curls at his lips, stretching his scar as he nods.
Figured it out, didn't you, kid? That loneliness you're feeling? It's not going anywhere. You'll always miss her. We'll always be incomplete without her. That's your plan?
I frown at him.
Just hop the rails, jumping off at different parts of time?
He coughs, then turns and spits blood.
Until I got to a spot where we've cured cancer, then we come back and save her. That's not how the train works. Its destinations and pickups are completely random. What you're suggesting would take decades, maybe centuries. Kid, I know everything you know, plus nearly 30 years of added experience. You're not going to tell me anything I don't know.
His answer is so logical that it infuriates me, and it takes a few seconds before I nod.
Is it worth it? You already know the answer to that question too. If we can save her, yeah, it'll be worth all this sacrifice.
I take a breath.
It will probably also erase us from existence.
He nods.
You already know that's worth it too.
I hate it when I'm right.
So, what? Me and you? Partners in crime and time? Is that why you chronologically shanghaied me? Yeah, about that.
He opens up his jacket, revealing several different tools and weapons I don't recognize, along with a thick leather-bound book. All his equipment is coated red from the hole blown into his ribs.
Fucking Javi. Never was much of a marksman, but sometimes all you need is luck.
He limply taps the book.
Thought this would happen someday too. So, I kept a log. Pay attention to it. Learn from my mistakes. Eventually, you might find the cure and save her.
I frown.
And if not?
He smiles through blood-stained teeth.
If not, hop off the train and recruit a younger version of yourself. Worked for me.
He bends over and coughs again, staining the concrete crimson. He slumps forward and goes still. I work my finger along his neck, shuddering at the realization of touching myself, but push past the unease and search for a pulse. There isn't one. Sighing, I remove his coat and take all his supplies for myself. I walk away from my corpse and open the book. I've got 24 hours before the next train stop. I better prepare myself. SCP-52 is a Type R4 New York City subway train. Official records indicate this train was built in 1932 and decommissioned for scrap in 1975. Nevertheless, it continues to appear on the Uptown A and D track at the 59th Street and 8th Avenue station at 11:57 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday. The train is in perfect condition and labeled as an A train. SCP-52 appears at the designated time, opens its doors to accept and discharge passengers for approximately 5 minutes, then closes its doors and disappears. It does not appear to ever contain passengers, except for those leaving the train during its appearance. The majority of subjects that have boarded SCP-52 have not been recovered. Passengers leaving SCP-52 claim to have boarded on various dates, from 1976 up to 2204. Subjects retain no knowledge of time on board. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more SCP stories like this one. You can also check out some more episodes from the SCP Experience podcast here. I'll see you in the next one.